بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وأفضل الصلاة وأتم التسليم على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيبنا ومولانا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين ما بعد. Yesterday towards the end of the session, the sister asked the question about which was related to ethics, which is to an ethical concern regarding proposal in marriage. And I thought afterwards that it actually fits in quite nicely with what we were discussing, because it can be said that question should best be addressed by an ethicist. So it belongs to the domain of somebody who's working in the specific philosophical domain of ethics. Because it's a question of ethics, only an ethicist should be able to answer it, should be able to analyze it and weigh it and see what the answer can be. On the other hand, it might be equally suggested that because the assumption may be that, or will be, is that what's a scholar of religion got to do with ethics, coming from a certain perspective, that a scholar of religion should talk about spirituality, should talk about prayer, should talk about things like that. So now we have compartmentalized our lived human experience into different categories. So there is the category for thought, there is a category for prayer, for worship, and there's a category for our daily action, which all seem to be sort of we're trying to split them across from that perspective. Equally, it can be said that the question must be addressed only by a religious scholar, scholar of religion, because ethics should be the domain of religion, which is fine. But then the assumption is that religion is only relevant to ethics. Religion is all about ethics. So the domain of religion is all about teaching about compassion, about love, about and all other ethical concerns. And as far as what we've been discussing, as far as Islam is concerned, as far as what the Quran tells us, that both of these are correct to a significant extent only. But if taken as whole truths, they are profoundly wrong. Because fundamentally, religion and Islam and faith is about recognizing our servitude to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Recognizing that we are first and foremost, before anything else, we are servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are ibadullah and imamullah. And as soon as we arrive at that recognition, as soon as we accept that, and the Quran makes it plain and clear that even if human beings don't recognize that, they still are servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah's qada, Allah's qadar, Allah's what Allah has destined for them will reach them nonetheless. And فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيُؤْمِنْ فَمَنْ شَاءَ فَلْيَكْفُرْ. Whoever wants to believe, they can believe. Whoever doesn't want to believe, that they may not believe. إِنَّا أَعْتَدْنَا لِلْكَافِرِينَ نَارًا أَحَاطَ بِهِمْ سُرَادِقُهَا. But there are consequences to the choices you make. So when we recognize and accept that we are Allah, we are the servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we are the slaves of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that defines everything we do, because that is our fundamental identity. And because it is a fundamental identity, everything we do revolves around that. So the question why a concern, an ethical concern about a marriage proposal must be asked of a person who speaks in the name of religion, is because ethics, understood in this framework, in this context, ethics concerns the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So rather than saying that ethics concerns other sentient human beings or other human beings or other animals or environment, broadly we understand ethics, or the Quranic understanding of ethics or Islamic understanding of ethics is that it concerns the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hence only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has the final authority to tell us anything about ethics through his Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, through his normative practice, through his teachings, through his preachings, through the Quran, etc. And so what is the answer that was given to the question, to yesterday's question, would be, in some respects, we can say that it would be the same answer if given by a non-believing ethicist or a non-Muslim ethicist. So this is where the convergence happens, that we have an ethical concern whether it's appropriate for a person entertaining two proposals of marriage to keep that information from either party. It's a purely ethical concern, and the answer to that will be, somebody may say that no, it's fine, it's none of their business, it's your life, and hence it's up to you to decide what you want to tell other people, etc. But then the answer that we gave, based on the hadith, because in this particular instance we have a direct hadith from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even if we didn't have the hadith, we have the broader framework of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam teachings are such that we know what the answer would be in that situation. It's not appropriate to deceive, and this is important, deceive another creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, another human being. Why? Because they are created, because they are from the khalq of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they are from the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and hence they have rights, and we have obligations towards them, obligation of being honest, of being sincere. But an ethicist would also come to the same conclusion, that it is not appropriate to deceive someone, it's not appropriate to mislead someone, no matter what you feel about the matter, or whether you feel that it's relevant to you only and not to others, it is not their business. But it's not good, it's not a good conduct to mislead someone into believing something else. So we may agree on the answers, but we are coming from two completely different perspectives, and this ties into what I was trying to say yesterday, is that when we try to analyze religion, or when religion is analyzed today, what is the function of religion? So we come to or society tends to think about it and say, okay, what religion is good for is ethics. So religion and ethics are equal. So if we can have ethics without religion, what is the need for religion? This is the logical conclusion to the whole understanding. Similarly, we have a thinking about we may equate religion with philosophy. That religion is tells us higher truths. It tells us, teaches us values, teaches us morality. But then somebody might say, okay, so does philosophy deal with higher questions, and questions which are not available, or the answers to which are not available or accessible in science, for example. And that is the function of philosophy. So if the function of religion is the same as philosophy, to tell us higher truths, then they are the same. So they can be equated with each other. And hence, what is properly a philosophical concern can become a religious concern, and what is a religious concern can become a philosophical concern. And this is the problem. And I think one of the one of the very fundamental problems that is faced by religion today is that religion is reduced to its effects, to its functions, what functions or its consequences. If a person is religious, what does religion do to a person? Of course, I mean, in some cases it does pretty bad things, but that's not because of it's not the fault of religion, but it's because people have understood it wrongly, or misunderstood it, or not understood it at all. But what we are trying to say, and what the Quran is trying to tell us, is that the primary function of religion is to establish your servitude, the servitude of the creation with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and everything else follows on from there. So this is something that we need to realize. I mean, when we think of it, if we can give an example, or even if we can give that particular example that we're talking about, we have been talking about, the answer is the same that you get from an ethicist, or and the one that you get from a religious scholar. But where do the answers come from? And this is where it's differentiated. It becomes different, and hence it's very important for us to have a very clear view of what it is that religion tries to, what is it, and what it is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wishes us to do when He reveals His word to us, when He sends His messengers to us. He simply wishes us to acknowledge His being, His presence, and all His attributes in their full, and without reducing it to anything else. And everything else that comes as a result, as a consequence of that belief, as a consequence of that admission and that acceptance by us, is consequential. It comes as a consequence. It is consequential to that. So it can't be. So we can't say, "Oh, religion is about ethics," or religion is about morality, or religion is just simply a philosophy for living a good life. No, it is all that, but it is something much more profound. It's much more at the primary level. It's much more. It goes deeper than that. And even in Islamic history itself, you find that there have been Muslim philosophers who made the same mistake. Of course, because they were acting within the paradigms of reasoning, of paradigms of philosophy that were not Islamic in nature. They had inherited it from the Greeks, and hence the influence was coming from there. Even in theology, in many things, like I said yesterday, Mu'tazila. The Mu'tazilis, they were rationalist philosophers, and they were trying to make sense of religion, but critically outside its specific framework. And when you try to do that, you arrive at conclusions which are completely at odds with religion. So nowadays we have concerns about some aspects of Islamic law. We are thinking, okay, law should be about morality, law should be about quality, law should be about justice, law should be about these things. And hence the laws, some of the laws given in the Quran or given in the Sunnah, they are archaic and they must be done away with. Why? Because humanity has evolved culturally, intellectually since the period of the Quranic revelation, and hence we must our understanding of these laws and of religion broadly generally should also evolve, should also follow through. But this again falls into the same problem that we have been discussing. That was the Quran, was the Sunnah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam only relevant for that period of time, or is it relevant until the day of judgment? And because now we have reduced Quran to or the laws of the Quran, or laws of the Sunnah, to what effect they cause in the society. So we are now thinking we have to change that law in order to bring it in conformity with our society, with our with the society and the culture that we are part of. And this, and I know I'm repeating again and again, but because it's an important point that often gets missed in these discussions, that this is the root of this way of thinking is because we have reduced religion to something which is not. I was mentioning the case of Muslim philosophers. We have an interesting story. Al-Farabi, who was one of the earliest Muslim philosophers, and he wrote a very influential book. influential in the domain of Islamic philosophy at least. And he started that book. The book was called Ara Ahl al-Madina al-Fadila. And he starts the book with statement that إن الموجود الأول هو السبب الأول للموجودات كلها, which means that the first existent being is the first cause for all existing beings. Now, if you think about it carefully, it's a profoundly self-contradictory statement. How can, if we say that the first existent being is this first cause for all existing beings, so is the first existing being part of all the existing beings or not? Of course, that's a different matter. But so when one of the mashayikh, Sheikh Muhyiddin ibn Arabi, when he happened upon this book once, and he picked up the book and he read the first line, he threw the book away, discarded the book. Firstly, he said that why would a person not mention Allah by his name, Allah? What's the point of saying Al-Mawjud Al-Awwal? And secondly, his point was that how is this statement different to the one in the Quran, Allahu Khaliqu Kulli Shay, which is much more profound, much more meaningful, much more impactful when you hear it. But there is a deeper reason for this. What he was actually complaining about, and what he found quite disrespectful, was this presumption that we know what Allah is. We can comprehend Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We can understand Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we can reduce Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in our intellects, in our minds, to al-mawjud al-awwal. And that gives us a definition of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And this presumption is where the fault is. If you just think about whenever the name of, as an experiment, if you think about whenever the name of Allah is mentioned, what is the first thought, or what's the first impression that comes in our minds when we just mention Allah? What is it that comes in our minds? Often it's not very clear, and which is a good sign rather than a bad sign. It's not the ideal, but it's a good sign because at least our mind is not conjuring up an image of a being that we can claim to have intellectually conquered as such that Allah means this and I know this. It's done and dusted. No. But generally, when we think about it, we think of Allah as a Rahim, as merciful, as compassionate, as a creator, as a sustainer, and all these things. These are all valid. And the Quran tells us this: إِنَّمَا الْمُؤْمِنُونَ الَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرَ اللَّهُ وَجِلَتْ قُلُوبُهُم. Their hearts tremble when the name of Allah is mentioned. The true believers, their hearts tremble. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, being the prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, having met Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in his night journey, and having seen many of the realities of afterlife, when the time and despite all that, when the adhan was raised, when the adhan was given, when the call to prayer was made, Rasulullah, Aisha radiallahu anha says, at home he was like normal, kana ka ahadina, he was like one of us. He would go about his own business in a pretty normal manner. But as soon as the adhan was given, as soon as the call to prayer was made, he would suddenly change. His personality would completely undergo a transformation of sorts. That كأنه لا يعرفنا لم يعرفنا ولم نعرفه. That he became as though he had never known us. We were complete strangers to him, and as though he was a complete stranger to us. So what is this? This is the profound effect of understanding religion and faith as it must be understood. As it must be understood. And if you understand it this way, then no matter how many times we think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's always the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is always awe-inspiring. It always overwhelms us. Like it always overwhelmed the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And so this is a good benchmark to say to just summarize what we have been discussing for the last 3 days, in fact, that religion is about recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as He ought to be recognized. Ittaqullaha haqqa tuqatih. Be mindful of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is His due. So giving Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala His due of recognition, and then modeling our lives accordingly. So this is what religion is fundamentally about. This is what being is fundamentally about. The immediate question that comes up is then, so how do we know what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, since we've been saying that the understanding of Islam and understanding of religion and of deen and the perceptions of these things is dependent upon how Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam understood it, and how he preached to his companions and how they understood it. So the question that comes up from that is, how do we know what the understanding was? How do we know that understanding has reached us accurately? And this is a topic for another discussion. Perhaps we will continue with this tomorrow. But for now, if we can summarize what we have been trying to say, is that religion is not same as or cannot be reduced to philosophy, cannot be reduced to ethics, cannot be reduced to morality. All these are parts of religion, but fundamentally, first and foremost, religion is about recognizing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as it is His right and due to be recognized. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the tawfiq. We have time for some questions.
Time for 1 or 2 questions, if there are.
I think this might be a wider topic to address right now, but just to touch on it. I wanted to know your thoughts on the guidance around mental illness.